Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This is not something I was there to see, but my cousin saw it and told me all about it. First off, this area is not a neighborhood. This is a place surrounded by cornfields with two houses next to each other. Leash laws are not a thing in this area. As long as your dog is on your property and not causing any damages to others, it's fine. So grandma, cousin, and grandma's friend were sitting outside on the front porch talking. Their dog was playing in the front yard doing her thing. They see this lady walking in the middle of the road, and like I said, this is an area surrounded by cornfields, and there was not another house for miles down that road. Their dog gets interested and starts getting kinda close to the road. Grandma starts calling for her. She looks at grandma, and then the crazy lady starts calling for the dog. Their dog is super friendly and loves new people, so she instantly goes in the middle of the road to the crazy lady. The crazy lady starts petting their dog. Everybody on the porch is getting up and going towards the lady to get their dog out of the road. And this lady picks up their dog and starts running down the road. Everybody starts shouting things like, "That's our dog! Bring her back!" Even the neighbor heard the ruckus and screamed, "Hey, that's her dog!" Everybody was so surprised. My grandma's friend gets in her car and starts following them down the road. Their neighbor also gets in their car and chases them down the road. My cousin called the cops, and grandma grabbed a broom to use as a possible weapon. Cousin gets a hold of police, and they send somebody who was already on this road, heading into town, about 4 miles down the road. My grandma's friend blocks off the crazy lady with her car, jumps out, and tries grabbing the dog out of the crazy lady's arms. The crazy lady is not having it, and she tries pulling the dog back. Poor dog is stuck in a pulling match. The neighbor shows up, also blocking her off. The cops then show up, letting my grandma, who now has also a large stick, grab her dog and walk back to the house. The cops start asking questions, and the crazy lady starts claiming that they were stealing the dog from her. After the cops absolutely didn't believe her, she claims that she was taking the dog to the dog pound because she was being abused by her owners because she was left alone on the road, even though the crazy lady was the one to call the dog into the road. Also, this lady was on her way to a city that was in the other direction and currently 15 miles away. The cops asked my grandma if she wanted to press charges, and she said definitely. My family kinda thinks this lady was on drugs because she was spacing out a lot and didn't seem totally there. Most of the dialogue is not what was exactly said, but paraphrased because my memory is not the best thing. This story happened about a year ago. I was biking to the store to pick up something for dinner when something hit my bike. I look over in a daze because someone just hit my bike and see a red SUV sitting next to my ruined bike. Then Karen enters the scene. "Oh my god, my car!" she says. She then turns and looks at me. You hit my car with your bike. How dare you?" "Ma'am, you hit my bike with your car. I didn't hit your car." Then I attempt to stand up. "I didn't hit your bike. You hit my car." "I can very clearly see you hit my bike. You need to pay for the damages for my car." "Ma'am, Karen doesn't let me speak and slaps me. After a moment of realization, I tell her, "Firstly, you hit me while I was on the bike lane. Not only were you driving in the wrong lane, I also got injured, and I could press charges against you." Karen doesn't listen to me and calls the police. 10 minutes later, the police arrive and take statements from her. Then they come over to me. "So, what happened?" The police officer asks me. "That woman was driving on the bike lane and ran into me. I tried to be polite, and she yelled at me and demanded I pay for the damages. Then she slapped me." Ironically, the dashcam for her car was recording all that, and the cops confirmed what happened when they watched it. The cop asks me, "Would you like to press charges?" And I happily said yes. The court case was open and closed. She basically had provided evidence against herself. When her dashcam footage was watched by the police, showing my case was true, she paid me $30,000 and her husband divorced her, as her kid was in a car and she got him in danger. She also got 2 years of prison time, and her husband got full custody of the child, and she can no longer see her son. As for me, I ended up with a broken ankle and a fractured knee. I'm doing fine now though, I'm all healed up. I kinda feel bad. Should I feel bad? It is. Since some people have been questioning, Karen's husband had called me to apologize and we had a conversation along the lines. I am so sorry about Karen. We have divorced and I have full custody of our kid now. I am truly sorry about all of this. This happened when I was around 12 or 13, so the details might be a little skewed. Most of my childhood, the house right next to ours has been condemned and abandoned. The property owners were willing to sell the land for $200, and that's how bad it was. My family didn't buy it because the land tax in our area is high, because we are a school of choice. Eventually, someone bought it and threw a manufactured home on it to replace the condemned home. Soon, a nice old man moved in next door, and we didn't pay too close attention because he kept to himself. That was until his daughter moved in with him. Soon, our quiet little neighborhood turned into an episode of white trash and trouble. The daughter would fight with her spouse about every little thing and keep my family, along with our neighbors, up half the night. Their kids were the worst part of all. We never knew how many kids lived in that house, because so many different children and adults were in and out of there all the time. Me and my siblings tried to become friends with them because there are not too many kids in our age in our town. We ended up being more of their babysitter than just a friendly neighbor kid. They would come over to our house and each of my siblings had a group of kids, 3 to 4 each, to watch over. These kids would walk in uninvited into our house. While we would play with their siblings in the yard, they would steal toys and games from our rooms. Honestly, they stole stuff from all over our house. But this was the main area. They would either take it for themselves or throw it in the backyard river. They did that a lot if we made them mad for taking back our stuff. They would constantly run in and out of our house, even if no one was with them. They would steal all of the fruit in the basket my mom left out for us. My mom didn't kick them out immediately because she never wanted to deny a kid food if they needed it. My mom confronted the parents about their behavior, and their 3-year-old son called her a witch. The parents refused to apologize for their behavior, saying stuff like, "If you loved it so much, you wouldn't have let them take it," or "Don't parent my kid." One thing they would specifically do with me is they pulled on my hair all the time. I'm a tomboy. And they would just call me a boy in a wig because girls can't play with skateboards. Girls can't play with ninja action figures or any other gender stereotype. They would constantly bombard me because they truly didn't know girls were allowed to play with anything they wanted. One of their heavier children stole my skateboard and jumped on it, breaking it in half. Similar to that so no-hit Vine. Then they said I shouldn't have been playing with one anyway. There are plenty more examples, but I think you get the point. The neighbors decided that because our house was nicer, that they had permission to run an electrical line from our backyard blocks to their house, which in itself is a bad thing because they decided to run off our electric bill to triple the cost of our original. We were lower middle class below poverty level, so we couldn't really afford that kind of bill. The rule in our house is that if you're not using it, it's turned off. And that's why my parents were awfully surprised to see an $800 electric bill. Eventually, a person from our electric company came out to our house to see what was happening, and they found an extension cord running to their house. The electrician simply unplugged it, then warned the neighbors of the legal reasons why they can't do that, then said that should be the end of that problem. My mom politely but sternly went to the neighbors and told them that this was not okay. The neighbor had a small adult tantrum about it and cussed my mom out, but eventually she came back into our home. My mom was obviously not pleased with their behavior, but tried not to escalate the situation any further. Our neighbors tried one or two more times to run the line from our house to theirs, and they would move it at night so we wouldn't see them move it. Each time when we unplugged it, they would cuss us out and send their kids over to destroy something else in our home. Eventually, mom straight up told them if they or their kids come on our property again, she would call the police and press charges. We could still be friends with their kids, but they weren't allowed on our land. They decided that because we won't let them use our electricity, that the next best option was to steal our dog from the backyard and claim our dog attacked her kids. Even though our dog was harmless and cowers at everything due to bad owners before us, I'm guessing because our dog liked to rip her tags off a lot, that the neighbors said she was a stray and that she attacked them. The pound came and took our puppy away. By the time my brothers and I got home, she was already gone. We just assumed she ran off to our grandmother's, who lived down the street. She would do this often because my grandma spoils her. When my parents came home, they lost it. Learning our dog was missing, we obviously looked for her, but couldn't find her. After 2 days, we found her at the dog pound. The officer said it was obvious that our dog did not hurt their kids, but they still had to take her in for an evaluation. My parents had to spend $200 to get her out. The pound told us why the dog was taken, and my mom said enough was enough. Now the revenge. When my mom got home, she sent my little brother over to their house to play with their kids. He was still friends with some of them at the time. My brother became a little spy that day. His job was to look around their house and report anything that could be suspicious. We learned from him that they were sitting 3 kids in a twin bed. The entire house was crammed and dirty. The old man that lived there was hardly home because he couldn't stand his adult daughter that lived there. But he didn't want to evict her from the home and leave his grandkids homeless. All around the kids were being neglected. With the information my brother gathered, my mom called CPS on the home. Within a month, all of the children minus one, who the old man cared for, were removed from the house. While I agree the foster system is bad, it was definitely better than what they were going through in that house. The mother of the children started to fight with the old man, her father, over everything, because her kids were no longer there as a distraction. The old man was to be her next victim, and he eventually was fed up with her and kicked her out of the home. All that was left in the home was the old man and the grandson he was fostering. They are both very kind and amazing neighbors. Edit. Reading some comments, here is some clarification. I am not sure the exact time frame. This happened around 7-ish years ago, and I was still fairly young at the time. But I believe this event lasted no more than 3 to 4 weeks. We live in a really safe neighborhood, so the thought about locking the doors in the daytime was not on our minds. Mostly because either me or one of my siblings were constantly in and out of the house, and our parents did not trust us not to lose the keys and be stuck outside in the winter time. By breaking in, I meant they would go into our house while we played in the yard. There were so many of them. We didn't notice if 1 or 2 went missing for a short while. They were still allowed at my house after them stealing, because in our kid brains we were still friends with them. There is not a lot of younger kids in our area, so we took what we could. We were friends with them and didn't want to lose any friendship. The kids were banned from our house after a week or so, but once in a while they would still come in if they were hanging out with us. I asked my mom and she said she didn't call the police back then because she was friends with our neighbor, the old man, and didn't want to cause any tension with him. That, and if the daughter was a permanent neighbor, we didn't want her to be mad at us for calling the police and causing us any problems. I hope that clears it up a bit, and I hope the kids are having a better life now. I wanted to stir up some storm. I knew I wasn't going to use this particular company as a reference, and I was already hired at the next company and I had my first day all scheduled. And I was angry at the company I was leaving, for various reasons. So on my last day, as I was downloading my pay stubs and insurance information and anything else I might need in the future pertaining to my HR with the company, I stumbled on an org chart. Curious, I exported it to CSV. Oh wow, this organization chart has everybody's email address. I cleaned up the spreadsheet so it just had email addresses, saved it, edited it in a notepad, so it gives me only email addresses in CSV format and easy to copy and paste. Then I made a burner Gmail address. I know Gmail was accepted inbound by the company because I've worked there forever and received the email from Gmail addresses all the time. About a week after I left, a week into my new job, I sent an email to the entire company from my burner Gmail that said, "I'm a previous employee. I made X dollars per hour upon my termination in 2020. I never received a performance evaluation in the 4 years I worked with X company." Furious in Florida, the signature was my little homage to Landers. I kept it short and sweet, only said the one thing that no employer wants you to say to a co-worker: your pay rate. I worked there until 2021, but I figured maybe if I say 2020, it might be a little less obvious it was me. They fired a lot of people at the start of COVID. I knew I was making more money than a lot of people there, but I was still in the middle of the pay range compared to others. The HR representative refused an exit interview, only giving me a PDF survey to sign and slip under his door on my way out. So I forced my exit interview on the whole company. I hope I stirred up some storm there. Thank you for watching and see you next time.